in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have roll call?
McIntyre?
Here.
Shaw?
Here.
The Cook?
Here.
Are there any agenda items that need correction or deletions? Okay, moving on to consent agenda, item number 1. We have A, claims for $750,758.18. B, minutes to approve, regular meeting 9/17/19, work session 9/25/19. C, approve removal from payroll for Christian Morhart, seasonal conservation, effective 9/6/19. D, approve removal from payroll for Merrill Butler, temporary employee, secondary roads, effective 9/27/19. E, approve removal from payroll for Robert Ryan Johnson, temporary employee, secondary roads, effective 7/10/19. F, approve removal from payroll for Jonathan Reith, IT specialist, information technology, effective 9/26/19. G, approve license application for Class C liquor license, commercial for Your Private Bartender LLC. H, approve abatement of taxes pursuant to Iowa Code 427.1 on parcel 48020230120 in the amount of $13,424. I, approve abatement of mobile home taxes pursuant to Iowa Code 435.25 on Title 91011342 in the amount of $71 plus accrued interest. J, approve abatement of mobile home taxes pursuant to Iowa Code 435.25 on Title 91011343 in the amount of $116 plus all accrued interest. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
The Cook?
Aye.
Shaw?
Aye.
McIntyre?
Aye. Moving on to item 2.
You might go, because it's not 9:35, you could go to 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go to item 4 since it's not 9:35. Thank you, Supervisor Scholl. Item 4 is discussion of Workforce Innovations and Opportunities Act.
This affects me. On our meeting on September 3rd, 2019, I was appointed as a supervisor to attend the workshop Innovation and Opportunity meeting that was held on Friday, September 20th, from noon to 4:30 in the afternoon in Johnston at Goodwill Industries. And Luke Nelson, who is here, has some exposure to this also, so after I get done, if Luke wants to say anything or maybe correct me, that'd be just fine. Anyway, this act was passed by Congress in 2014, and it's legislation that is designed to strengthen and improve our nation's public workforce system and help get Americans, including youth and those with significant barriers to employment, into high-quality jobs and careers, and help employers hire and retain skilled workers. And on that meeting that was held again in Johnston at Goodwill Industries headquarters, they were recommending, by the way, the first thing they said out of the gate is, when you leave here after 4.5 hours, you're going to be very confused. So they did succeed at that. Number 2, they said that we would get out early. Now, this was a 4.5 hour meeting, so when I get to the end, I'll tell you how early that was. Warren County's been assigned to a proposed Central Iowa Region 3, which alphabetically is the following 10 counties plus Warren County. So it'd be Ottawa, Boone, Carroll, Dallas, Guthrie, Jasper, Madison, Marion, Polk Story, and us would be the 11 counties. Now that's being proposed, it has not been approved yet. At the meeting were 7 of those counties, 4 did not make it, being Carroll, Dallas, Guthrie, and Marion. They did not have attendance at the meeting. I've had some exposure, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, to kind of a similar program in the early 2000 called CTEC. And so it ended up, and again, I'll mention this a little later, that Warren County had some financial liability when that thing was all done and said. So after 1 hour at this meeting, I jumped up and said, Warren County wants to opt out. But they told me you cannot opt out, so we are in. The federal government has allocated $14 million to the state of Iowa, and Region 3 should get about $2.3 million. And some of the things we have to do is to set up the bylaws, get organized administratively, set up the governance, how we're going to operate this thing, and those kinds of things. Now back to the thing that CTEC that was, I think, created in at least in the early 2000s, maybe a little bit earlier. At that particular point, it included Polk County and the 7 surrounding counties, which included Warren County. There were 3 or 4 administrators at CTEC that paid themselves unauthorized bonuses of $1.5 million. And they also had some expenses that were unauthorized also. The 3 or 4 of them ended up serving 6 or 7 years in prison for all this. Megan and I tried to look up what it cost Warren County, but it was pre-2009, which was another system that we used as far as our financial records. But we believe it cost us from $40,000 to $60,000, which doesn't sound too bad when you're talking about $1.5 million. But the way it was set up, the 7 counties surrounding Polk County each got a vote, and then Polk County got 4, and I think the city of Des Moines got 3, so they had half of the votes. I'm assuming that perhaps those that had more votes had to pay more. I'm not sure how that all worked out. At the meeting, so my concern for Warren County is liability. I mean, there can be liability other than financial, but financial could be a big liability. I'm hoping that somebody learned something from CTEC so that we've got this set up properly so we can administer the finances and whatever else needs to be done. Story County Supervisor who attended the meeting apparently they have what's called a civil attorney, and she offered that person to help set up some of these things like bylaws and all that kind of stuff. And Mark Hansen, who is a supervisor from Dallas County, actually jumped up and said, I don't know if we appreciate that or not, because Story County did not pay their fair share of the liability in 2007 or 8 or whatever it was. And by the way, I wasn't serving in the Iowa Senate when all this CTEC stuff went on, and they had hearings over the lunch hour, and I went to every one of them, and they were very, very interesting from the fact that there was more than $1.5 million of unauthorized expenses. Anyway, what would be the concern I think Mark Hansen had, supervisor from Dallas County, was the fact that maybe they could put something in the bylaws that exempts Story County from liability or whatever. I can certainly understand that. The meeting did adjourn at 4:25, so we got out 5 minutes early. I think I'm still confused today, but yeah, it's going to be something that's going to take considerable time in the future. And I did talk to Don a little bit about I might need some help. And the thing is, like the bylaws and all that, I'm sure they have a template or whatever you call it that they can copy and lots of those kinds of things. But I'd like to have her at least review them to see what we think about what they're proposing. Luke, anything that comes to your mind? I know you're on the financial board or something.
The finance committee.
Yeah, the finance committee for the proposed district region 3.
Yeah, that's all part of realignment, meaning we used to be there was about 15 different districts. Now it's going down to a much smaller number, 5, 6, something like
Yeah,
that.
I did hear that. I think they said something like there was 16. They're proposing 6. That's to be seen. I think that Iowa Workforce Development, there were 4 of them at the meeting. I think they have some knowledge. And then there was 3 consultants there from New Jersey, and they have some knowledge. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this thing all lands. But anyway, I promise to keep you all up to date.
Thank you. All right, well, we'll look to see how that develops. Okay, moving back to item 2 on our agenda, which is a public hearing regarding road vacation of Kirkwood Street and possible action. David Carroll?
Do we need to do a public hearing?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I would move that we go into a public hearing.
Second.
Roll call.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Shaw.
Aye.
Peacock.
Aye.
All right, we're in a public hearing now.
So this is to vacate Kirkwood Street. It's about 0.4 miles. Maybe 3-4 years back, we did install an entrance off of Lisbon to access these properties. This is a public hearing, so I believe maybe some of the adjacent landowners are in attendance. However, for this one, we do recommend the second and possible third reading because we do want some time to hear back from one of the adjacent landowners throughout this process. But for now, it's just the first reading, and we can go from there. Okay.
Okay, the time is now yours. If you would like to address this issue, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Yes, I'm Steve Crow. I own the ground on the first quarter mile as it goes west on both sides. It cuts my farm in two. The bridge has been closed, so now I have a field in the back where I got to go through a ditch with my combines and planters to get to the backfield. I need to level it out so I can farm through it. The map is pretty evident. You can see the angle of the road that's painted in red, and I wish it to be closed so I can put it back, put the acre or whatever it is back on my tax rolls, and I can reshape the road and use it to farm it as one field. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
My name is Joe Spick, and I'm the other landowner.
Okay. Could you
I-
come?
Sure.
Thank you.
I,
We just need it recorded.
Okay. I own the property that would be west of the Crow property. So that would be an abandoned strip if you close the front part. Why, I butt up to the river. I also have the land on both sides of the road, so I have no objection to you closing it unless you're gonna make it flat so my ground don't drain, so that would be my only objection, so.
All right.
Brian, is that the final name? Okay, that's the final, so. I guess to backtrack, that would be the other adjacent landowner, so he obviously did get the message. So we now recommend, if there is no objection from any of the adjacent landowners, that we waive the second and third reading and move forward with vacating the road.
David, on his issue about leveling the ground or whatever, it sounds like Steve's gonna do that. Is that true?
Yeah, once it reverts back to private property, then they
As
have,
far as his runoff, that he was concerned about.
I just want the option to do that myself. I don't want anybody else ruining my drainage,
But you know that Steve's,
Yes, Steve won't affect me. Steve
Okay.
is on the other side. I'm between Steve and the river.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for coming out too.
No problem.
I move we go back to regular session.
Second.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
I would entertain a motion to, what is this? Vacate this Kirkwood Street and waive the second and third hearing.
I would move that.
Oh, I can't make the motion, but
Okay.
I can suggest.
Okay, I would move that we vacate 4/10 of a mile on Kirkwood Street and we waive the second and third readings.
I second the motion.
DeCook.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
McIntyre.
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, and our third item on our agenda is public hearing regarding the road reclassification for 200th Avenue with possible action. I will accept the motion to go into public hearing.
I would move we go into public hearing.
Second.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
This is to reclassify approximately 420 feet of level B road to level A to accommodate the building of a residential property. The actual entrance for the proposed residential property is only, say, 20 or 40 feet south of the level A gravel road. We just need the 400 additional feet to be able to appropriately ditch the water, basically down the hill. We don't want to put any gravel on the road without putting some form of ditches out there. We did receive a petition from all the adjacent landowners affected by this. It seemed to check out. I know Don's reviewed it. So our recommendation is to waive the second and third reading on this one as well and move forward with approval of this. There may be some people in the audience though too that may oppose or reject this, so I'll give the floor to them.
Is there anyone here for the public hearing regarding reclassification of 200th Avenue? Okay,
I would move we go back to regular session.
second.
DeCook.
Aye.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Okay. Now I would take a motion to waive the second and third public hearing regarding road reclassification for 200th Avenue.
I move we reclassify 420 feet of 200th Avenue from a B level to an A level and waive the second and third readings.
Second.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Okay, our fifth item on our agenda is update from Norwalk City Manager Luke Nelson.
Thank you. I do have a map here.
Look, you're not coming down where I said you were going to say.
Not yet. There's a copy for you. These are just some numbers on there so I can kind of give you a little guidance of where each item I'm talking about. Well, first I want to say thank you, Doug, for participating in the Central Iowa Workforce Development. I think that is a very important organization to helping put people to work, especially when finding good employees right now is so important to our area. Well, first what I'm going to do is talk to you about a couple CIP projects. These are our capital improvement program. Number 2 on the map, so it'd be at the kind of the northeast area. We're going to be doing a grind and overlay of Beardsley from Highway 28 east. We anticipate that's going to have about a 7 to 10 year lifespan. The city's considering a large 120 acre development that's going to be around 700 units just south of that roadway. So if we get 7 years out of that road, that would be great. The number 3 item, so this is on the southwest part of Norwalk, that is going to be another grind and overlay for that. And same thing, we've got a number of developments planned along that corridor, so we're hoping to get 7 to 10 years out of that. Number 4, actually I didn't put it on here, but that is expansion of our city hall. We're looking to put a second story. Our city hall is an old fire station that was repurposed. And back when that was originally designed, they anticipated living quarters being built as a second floor. So we're able to go up on that building and put in some offices. Because it's so small, it won't be necessarily public meeting space, so it doesn't have to be ADA compliant. Number 6 on your map, again, kind of in that northeast area, just north of the new Draft House restaurant, we have a new hotel proposed. Number 7 on the map, actually it doesn't show up on here either because this is Culver's. Culver's was planned to go along Turnberry, but that has been delayed. Those investors had been trying to purchase an existing Culver's in another community, and that fell through, so they bought this land, and then the other deal turned out to work. So now they've put this one on hold. So that's a little bit of bad news. Number 8 is a retail plaza that has been filled. I'm really excited about the Jimmy John's that is going in here. Also, they have a couple small clinics in Edward Jones. The second retail plaza is number 9, a little bit further north on Highway 28. This one, they have a new Edward Jones. Kind of strange, we had 2 new Edward Jones facilities go in within just a couple of months. That's a sign of a good economy. So that's great to see. And then just talked to the developers of that unit the other day, and they said that they are in negotiations with 6 to 7 other tenants looking to go in that retail plaza. I think they have 5 total units there. Number 10 on the list, again, right along Highway 28, is a new daycare center. It's currently under construction. Number 11, just north of that daycare center, is another dentist office. Number 12, a little bit further north, Luena Savings Bank. They are, actually the mayor and I just had lunch with that bank president yesterday, and they're wrapping up the exterior of that building and looking to start to finish the interior. It's a nice new facility. Number 13, so this is way down south. We had filled our certified site. That's where Windsor Windows and Michael Foods went. 2 great projects, so that filled up the certified site. So we started having negotiations with the landowner to the south, and we're still working with them, although there was a little bit of cold feet when they found out they had to lock in a price on the land. The benefit of the certified site is you get all this extra advertisement from the state to help go out there and bring in these larger light industrial companies. One of the downsides is they do have to lock in the price of their land. Number 14, a little bit further south, the city is in the very preliminary stages of looking at a North River interceptor. So you have small collector sewer lines, and then you have larger sanitary sewer mains, and then you have interceptors, probably something we could stand up inside of. So we're that area that would run along North Avenue, the total service area would go well beyond Interstate 35 from where Norwalk is at. In fact, Interstate 35 is the halfway point of that total service area. So we're in discussions right now, not only with Cumming, but we've also had discussions with West Des Moines, because ultimately that interceptor would service part of their community. So when you put a sanitary sewer pipe in the ground, it is like bees to honey. The developers know that that land will become developable. So the big number 15 in the southwest corner, we are looking to update our comprehensive plan for our community, and now taking a look outside our corporate limits as opposed to just within. And we've been in discussions with your community development staff. They've attended some of the early meetings we had with property owners in that area. We'll probably go out RFPs for consultants in January this 2020. And then the last item I don't have identified on here, I wanted to tell you about a mixed density tour that we did with our council. We rented a Herta bus and we took our council and a few staff over to Iowa City, and we visited the Peninsula neighborhood. This is a successful mixed density development that took place back in 2003, and they're just doing the final construction of one of the apartment complexes in there. They have single family homes next to duplexes, next to sixplexes, some owner occupied, some rental, even some affordable housing mixed in there. And we wanted to give our council a perspective of what mixed density looks like. One of our concerns from staff is if Norwalk grows with all low density single family homes, that's not good for the bottom line. Right now, comparatively, with the metro, we're about 85% residential, and where a community would want to be is closer to 50-50, about half residential, half commercial industrial. So we're heavy on residential, and because of that, we tend to have a little bit higher tax rates. So we're hoping that our council will begin to recognize the value of considering some mixed density, maybe not everywhere, but introducing in some places in the community. Last two items, Norwalk just hit. We anticipate in this coming fiscal year, our valuations hit $1 billion. And we are seeing double-digit growth for the community, around 13 to 14% growth. Still issuing about 200 single-family home permits between single-family and townhomes. The real good news is that we're seeing a significant jump in our commercial valuation. That's something that we're really excited about. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Two quick ones. One is, those two Edward Jones offices are gonna be very close.
Yeah, they're not very far at all.
Is there 2 blocks in there,
Probably about 3 blocks between the two of them. But it's along Highway 28, so it's wider too.
or? Sure. One's on each side.
Yes.
The other thing is that Luana Bank or Luana or
Mhm.
whatever it is, that's a bank that started over in northeast Iowa in a little town called Luana. And I don't know if that town is 1,000 people. And I have no idea what that footings would be on that bank now, but they have come to central Iowa and I think in Polk City and.
Yeah, they have several around the metro. I think they said this is their 5th or 6th branch that they are opening up in Iowa. So they've seen a lot of growth. Excited to have them.
Luke, I'd take a moment just to commend you, the council, the people that are making decisions and thinking into the future on Norwalk and their growth, hitting $1 billion of valuation with a real increase in commercial is absolutely what Norwalk needs in my mind, as well as this county. I think it's sometimes lost because it's no secret that our county has plenty of issues. But to put it in perspective of other counties that are shrinking, both in population and in valuation, the problems that we face are so much easier to deal with in a growing environment. If we were a bottom 2-tiered county in Iowa and we had issues with our roads or our facilities, the tax rates down there are terrible. It's a pit in which it's very difficult to dig out of, and I'm not envious of those decision makers there that they have to make some hard decisions. I'm very thankful for Norwalk coming, and the entire, anywhere where we're growing in the county. But I think you all are doing an exceptional job. I think Holly and Deanna are real assets, both to Norwalk and the county, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Well put.
Do you guys have an abatement or whatever you call it for 4 or 5 years?
We do a commercial abatement, and it's for 5 years. Starts at 75% the first year, and it drops down 15% each year. Our residential abatement that has had scrutiny here and there,
That is a 5-year abatement on the first $75,000 value. So I gave our council an example one time, and I said if you have a $300,000 home, you see a benefit of about $1,700 a year for the first 5 years, total of about $8,500 over that 5-year period. If you have a $1 billion home, you have a benefit of an abatement of about $8,500 over the 5 years. So it doesn't matter the value of the home, the abatement is the same. We ran calculations for council because they were critical, saying maybe we should get rid of this. So we ran some numbers and we found that the cutoff point was about 20 homes. When you talk about removing the abatement, the realtors, the developers get really concerned about that. Norwalk removed an abatement in the past and they saw their permits immediately take a hit. If we saw our community develop just 20 less homes in a year because we removed the abatement, the net result over a 10-year time frame would be a loss in revenue, a loss of growth for the community. So some people think, wow, you're giving away this money, that's a bad thing for the community. But in the end, ultimately we see it as an overall benefit, because as soon as that home is built and after 5 years, virtually to infinity, that home is paying property tax.
Full property tax.
Full property tax. Yeah, there's no chance of an abatement, unless they do another $75,000 addition on their home, but that doesn't happen very often.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 6, consider entrance variance application from Charles Coy Jr. with possible action.
So this is for a entrance that was applied for through our department. It's just north of Lacona on S23. Just a few facts. It has a 530 feet of sight distance on a county highway. We require 600, so it falls short 70 feet. I'm not sure if the applicant is here today or not. Our main concern with this one is we feel there's some possibilities left on the table to maybe reparcel land to fit the site better, to fit the roadway better. We'd like to see some more, I guess, undue hardship, quote unquote, that land can't be parceled off to have a safe entrance. So I guess we'd recommend our department recommends denying the variance until some of that hardship is displayed.
Is the property owner here today?
I would consider a motion to deny the variance application from Charles Coy Jr. with possible.
Do we have to do that, Don?
Yeah, you have to make a motion if you're going to consider it.
And just for my benefit, David, there's no preclusion from the landowner coming back, exploring additional options or further detailing or documenting the hardships that this might create if we deny this variance request.
Yeah, he could still come back. We would just prefer we see some other options presented on different ways to parcel off the property.
And was he notified of today's meeting?
Yes. He submitted the variance application.
I would move that we deny the variance application from Charles Coy Jr.
Second.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Shaw,
Aye.
DeCook,
Aye.
Thank you. We'll notify him and work with him through it. So.
Item 7, consideration for consent to a sign of agreement by Verizon Wireless, VAW LLC, 2 Excel Towers, is that 2, Roman numeral 2, or?
Agreement by Verizon Wireless to Excel Towers 2 LLC
Okay,
with
2
a subsequent
LLC
lease back.
With subsequent lease back with possible action.
In 2015, the board entered into a lease agreement with Verizon for two towers. One of those towers is a building on leased land. They have a tower on top of this administration building. The second lease agreement is to build a tower at the secondary roads shop site location on Nevada Street. That lease is not active. They're not actively paying us until the tower is built. We received notification in August that Verizon would like to go ahead with building that tower. And to do that, they would like to assign that lease over to Excel Towers, LLC, and Excel will build the towers, and then Verizon will lease it back from them. So what they're asking the board to do is consent to that assignment of the agreement that you had with Verizon to assign it to Excel Towers, LLC. And then Verizon will lease back from them. So that's the paperwork that we've received. I forwarded it on to legal. They've reviewed it. So it's before you now. So if you approve that tower will begin construction. They will begin that process to get that tower. And that is $9,000 annually to the county.
Per year?
Yes, per year. Once that tower is up and functioning, then they'll begin that lease
I
payment.
think we get about 24 here.
We do, yeah.
And I know that they use our facility to put their equipment.
Mhm.
I'm assuming out there they gotta build their own
Correct.
facility. David left, but is he?
I forwarded this information to him as well when it was received, and I have heard no objection, but I have not discussed it with David.
That was my question.
I can go find him.
Mine too.
Before we make a decision, can we bring him back in here?
I will.
Thank you. I know that at some point, he would be desirous of building a structure up there, and I just don't want to plop a tower in the middle of his plans, but if we can, I don't think they need a whole lot of space. My recollection is about 100 feet by 100 feet, so I don't think it should be an issue, but I certainly think he should be
Put it in the corner or something,
consulted.
right?
Yep.
Hopefully.
So if you take a look at Exhibit B that came with that in your packet, it shows where that tower would go on that property.
Okay, so it's kind of in the southwest corner, I guess. I don't know.
Back.
I'm going to hand that exhibit to David.
Sure. Their concern is where's the tower gonna go?
Yeah. David, effectively, what we just want to hear, I think it's a great way for the county to raise some additional revenue. From a tower site, my guess is they probably want 100 by 100, but you've got the specs in front of you. I just want to make sure that, if they're putting that into a corner of the county property on Nevada, that's not interfering with any of your future plans out there.
Right, so we did receive a few concept designs and then got it to final on this one. So there were some tweaks we had, but at the end, we all agreed on the location shown on this exhibit that that'd be the best fit to potentially accommodate a future shop site. So we did have them put it out on the, you can see the southeast corner and then provided some buffer space from the adjacent landowner.
So you don't have any issues with it?
We don't have any issues. They planned it appropriately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would move that we consent to the assignment of an agreement by Verizon Wireless to Excel Towers with a subsequent leaseback from, I guess, Excel to Verizon. That's probably not necessary, that part of it. That's what I mean.
I see legal is shaking her head.
I do think you want to go ahead and say the subsequent lease back.
Okay, good idea.
Yeah.
I will second that motion.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Cook.
Aye.
The
on to item 8, Supervisors Report. Supervisor DeCook.
All right. Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I will recap some of the meetings that I attended, and then I'll give some updates and add some substance to what I suspect many people are interested in, the Justice Center project. First, between the last meeting and now, I attended a user group meeting. Our next one is scheduled for October 3, this coming Thursday. The purpose and focus of these meetings is very simple. It's cost reduction. We are exploring multiple identified areas to reduce expense and bring the building's costs down. I won't tell you that this is an easy task, but we are certainly heading in the right direction, and I will provide a substantive update to this board following our October 3 meeting. I wanted to give an example of one area, and there are lots of areas to reduce the cost. One of the areas that we're going to discuss on Thursday is regarding the jail side of the building and of the project. When I was appointed to the board, it was sort of stated that the jail side is pretty well done and we should leave it alone. But to be honest with you, to get the building price down into the $34 million range, all things are going to be on the table, and that's sort of how we approach those meetings. And so one of the things that came up was doing a second dormitory setting and converting one block of cells to a dormitory setting. Now, we will discuss that with our sheriff and the group, but I think it's a likely option. The benefit of doing this saves an approximate $150,000 in cost reduction, but more importantly, and we'll get sheriff approval on it to do it, but more importantly, the inmate population expands 7 or 8 people. And so from day one, we might be able to move the population from 88 to 96. That's 2 things going in the right direction. These are some of the types of decisions that are being made to move this project forward, and I pledge and promise to you all that much more will come, because it is imperative to get the cost down, and that's what we're diligently doing. I will say this, there are some additional expenses, and I know Supervisor Scholl and McIntyre sure heard me say this probably too many times during our budget meetings this late winter, but it's true. A lot of littles do make a big. So I'm pretty thankful. I'm bringing Kurt to our next one, and eventually we will get down to the minutia. We'll start at the bigger things, but we will get down to the minutia to get the building in line. And some of those things are as simple as, what sort of soap dispenser does the building need? Now, there are fancy ones. There are ones that are inlaid underground or under the countertop, and those run about $250. Then there are other ones that you can put on the wall. They're a lot easier for our maintenance people to change out the soap. Those are about $30. Do we get a lot of cost savings from that? We don't. But is everything on the table? That's what I want the public to understand. It's all on the table. And to do the job that I've been appointed to do, we will get down to the minutia to make the numbers work. More to come on that too. Additionally, I attended a Greater Des Moines Partnership, the MPO meeting, Norwalk Chamber lunch meeting held at Crossroads Church. Very informative. Holly Askey came from the city of Norwalk and spoke about a sister city and a sister state of Kosovo. Very informative. Had an insurance meeting with True North regarding our county healthcare benefits. And I see that the conclusion of that meeting, I think, is coming up maybe on the 8th. But we're going to look at some additional healthcare options for the county. None of it's mandatory, but I think that there's some savings ability to help stave off premium increases for next year. That's going to be important. Met with some folks in the secondary roads, followed up with a number of constituents regarding some issues. Had a CICS board meeting, attended a CIR board meeting. This board had a special meeting, maybe two, one of which was regarding employment. Had a very informative meeting regarding our IT department and an assessment that was done by Marshall, Marion, and Jasper County. I want to thank those directors from those respective counties for coming here, for taking time out of their schedule. I don't think we've seen a bill on it.
It's provided by ISAC.
It's wonderful, is what that is. It's just really nice for those folks to help other counties work to improve the efficiencies in their respective IT department, as well as identify issues to address. And I thank them all. It was very good. Had a meeting regarding staffing, multiple communications with electeds, with the public, with users regarding the courthouse, jail, and others. I did an interview with Amy Duncan, who's sitting in the back. And I attended a HERDA board meeting. I did that one telephonically. It sort of conflicted with my schedule, and so I called in on that one. So with that, those were the meetings that I had attended that I can recall. And next, I sort of want to just speak to the public, speak to my colleagues on the board regarding the courthouse and jail project. While it would be my sincere preference to have a unified board of supervisors, I understand that that's not always the case when handling divisive issues. I wanted to take a few minutes to inform the public and the board of the plan. I understand that there are questions, and I want to be here to provide answers. I think it's imperative for all to know that this project is moving forward, and it is moving forward at the square location. Some of you won't like that, some of you will hate that, but I have concluded for a multitude of reasons, and after much thought, deliberation, balancing of facts, and a discussion, and many discussions, that the county is going to greatly benefit from the completion of this project, and in a timely manner. The risks, in my estimation, far exceed the benefits to move the location and to start over. I understand that this board has a referendum on November 5 requesting $3.5 million. And when you pull out the subset of folks that speak to the location as the issue, what you overwhelmingly see is that people are concerned with the cost. And I've highlighted multiple places, multiple times here from the board, what that additional cost looks like. But that is what I frequently hear. In fact, to give more light to what I hear from many is that the majority of folks, frankly, do not care where the building is located. What they care about is getting the project done. What they care about is to cease financing Jasper County's jail. And what they care about is to get the project done for the least amount of taxpayer pain possible. I've heard from those people. I've heard from other people as well. I want the public to know fully and to understand the following. You're aware of the upcoming vote. An educational campaign will commence this month. It's my hope that everyone puts aside their personal opinions and deals in facts. I deal in facts. I like others to do the same. It's my hope that the additional funds needed to complete a functional building with shell space to grow into the future will be financed at an appropriate interest rate. But make no mistake about it, there is an alternative path to finance the project with reoffering premium. Some have asked, why is the building targeted for $34 million? And I don't have anything to hide. I'm going to tell you exactly why. And it's because A $34 to $35 million facility can be financed two ways. We can request $3.5 million from the public to finance a functional building that will last. And we can pay an appropriate interest rate to do so. The board, assuming a majority of the board is on board, the same building can be financed with reoffering premiums and reserves from the board's budget. The point being that while there are two paths to finance the building and get it done, I'm certainly can do math, and it would be my sincere preference to finance at an appropriate rate. To that end, as I contemplated what $3.5 million looks like to the public, I have concluded this. While it's a nominal amount, on a $100,000 property, if our fiduciary is correct, that would add a 9-cent increase to the debt levy. That means that a person owning a $100,000 property can expect the debt levy increase that their share will be approximately 44 or 45 cents per month for the life of the bond. The bonds are projected to be 20-year bonds. And you can do the math up from 200, 400, $1 million. I always tell people that if I certainly don't live in $1 million home, but I'll tell you that I know folks that do, and while they would pay a disproportionate amount of extra, maybe it's $50 a year, those folks don't care. But as I thought about the $3.5 million and I thought about the people that put me in office, what I concluded was this: I'm tired of the inaction. I'm also tired, just absolutely tired of every time that government has an issue, that we already have one hand in your pocket or your purse, and then we dig a second one in there to make up the difference. I don't think that's appropriate. I think what's appropriate is for this board to be adults, to take actual ownership of the issue, and to find other ways to make that happen. And so to that end, I spoke with Ms. Duncan. I'm scheduled to speak with KNIA and anyone else regarding my plan to offset the $3.5 million that will be requested from the voters on November 5. And here's what I found. For this fiscal year, this board increased the general supplemental levy rate 18 cents. We did so for good reason. It was a tough vote. I voted yay because what we identified was a deficiency. What we identified was that the board here in Warren County had historically not funded our secondary roads and engineering department to the maximum amount allowable by statute. 18 cents on the general supplemental levy increased revenue for the county an approximate $400,000. That $400,000 went to David Carroll's budget. It went to the budget to add additional rock, to add additional for additional expenses to help improve our secondary roads and to improve his budget. In addition to that, this board allocated an emergency, I believe it was $360-ish thousand in rock, because we were in the throes of a terrible winter and our secondary roads were in rough shape, and that's an understatement. For anyone who lives on gravel roads, you know exactly what I'm talking about. From, I don't know, end of February, early March through, I think the last I started getting inundated with calls and emails was maybe April, when it started drying out. So let's look at that 18 cents. If the debt levy increase is 9, and the board just increased it 18 cents, is there another way? What I have concluded is that there is. That we can reduce the general supplemental levy rate starting for the next fiscal year, penny for penny. And so if the $3.5 million equals 8 cents on the debt levy, the general supplemental levy rate drops 8 cents. If it's 9, it's 9. If it's 10, it's 10. You get the idea. If 9 cents from 18 for this fiscal year is an approximate $200,000 that we would have to quote unquote find, make no mistake about it, you just heard from City Administrator Luke Nelson. He explained, I don't know, what was it, 18 projects in Norwalk? They've been busy up there. Valuations increased. I think people also are probably aware that valuations in other parts of the county and just on property in general have increased. It's my estimation, and this is just my estimation, that an approximate $100,000 to $125,000 will need to be identified in next year's fiscal budget out of a $13+ million budget. As a percentage, that's pretty small. So the question I have to ask myself and this board is, can we as a board identify 1.5% of the budget? Is there anything in the world that Warren County spends money on that's not the roads? Because we're not touching the roads. They will get another maximum transfer, with my vote at least, for the duration of my term. I've pledged that, and I mean that. So can we find $100,000 to $125,000, or maybe it's $150,000 in any spending that this county does that is less important than having a functional courthouse and jail that moves this project forward? And I will tell you, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and find it. I would hope that one or two of the other members here would do the same. I would hope that one or two of the other members here would also be on board in reducing the general supplemental levy or making that pledge with me on a penny for penny basis so that the taxpayers don't have to foot the bill for the additional costs needed to finance the project. It's time for the county to put our own skin in the game, and I'm very confident that we can do just that. I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Schultz?
Yes, meetings that I attended since the last meeting were Warren County Economic Development, Iowa Student Aid. I talked earlier for 4 or 5 minutes about what I'm going to call the Workforce Opportunity Act. Had a meeting with the Heartland RC&D. Had sort of another interesting new board that I was asked to serve on, and it has to do with the riverways. Basically, I think it would be the Des Moines River in Polk County, trying to create some recreational opportunities, what I'm going to call it. They had met several times, so they asked me to come on, and I've only been to one meeting, so my knowledge is somewhat limited, but could be interesting. I'm not sure it has any impact on Warren County, but we shall see. That's what I think.
Thank you. Okay, my report for today's meeting. Since our last regular board meeting, a great deal of my time has been spent researching and addressing personnel issues over these last 2 weeks. Aging Resources Board of Director meeting, attended the Carlisle City Council meeting, an overview of our general technology assessment, interviewing candidates for board assistant with our administrative clerk for our administrative clerk position, Impact Board of Directors meeting, second monthly attempt at the Warren County Housing Authority meeting, Safety Committee meeting, and our EFSP board meeting. And of course, as our other supervisors, a special board of supervisor meeting to address some IT personnel issues. And I too will be addressing the courthouse issue in 2 weeks. Our next item is public input. So the time is now yours. If you would like to come to the podium and express your concerns or congratulations.
Stay. Well, this is kind of a lot of thanks, but the street repair at 573 Greenfield Parkway actually started during Dean Yorty's years. It was my prediction at that time that cave-in would occur before Christmas, and it occurred the next day after I predicted it in September. this, they've repaired it, left a large void under the street after they repaired. And that void broke loose this year. And so this year, Christmas came again, and they got right on it. They've, in fact, they was, I think, finishing it up this morning. Look, I saw a crew down there. They had the street all blocked off, but it was right at the same place where the street caved in during Dean Yorty. So this is during Dean Yorty. Also, it's just a small part of Greenfield Parkway that needs work on, and the Gepke Parkway Creek, and also thanks for the load limit signs. You have agreed with me by these signs that these streets need worked on. Would like to see some teeth put in the rules, like having the company's truck that causes the street to cave in pay for the damages instead of taxpayers' money. I don't know if they can do that, but I just thought that out. Companies, well, I had one guy was threatening to bring his semis and park in front of my house, and that street's going to cave. And I invited him to do it because it'll cave in. And it's got no parking on the other side, so it would also make a very small lane for people to drive in. And I want to thank you. And I got for you, I want you to read this, my God report.
Thank you, George.
Any others? All right, seeing, hearing none, I'd like to move on to item 10, our next meeting date, October 15th, 2019 at 6 p.m. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Schultz,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.